Hello to you friends, this is Dhamma on Air number 23 and it's recorded indoor because of a big rainstorm that passed Sri Lanka some days ago and now is working its way up India towards Bangladesh. There's 6 questions and tomorrow is Vesak. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But first, the normal intro. Namo Tasso Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Worthy, honorable, and perfectly self-enlightened was the blessed Buddha. So, Vesak was yesterday, is always on the full moon of May. The Vesak festival, which is a festival of light, of illumination, because it celebrates the birth 2,560 years exactly on this year ago of Buddha Gautama and the enlightenment and the passing away of him, which always for all Buddhas, also for Buddha Gautama, happens exactly at the full moon night of May. So this regularity of the Dhamma is wonderful in this way, that it always happens like that. It's celebrated all over the world, with usually making lanterns of light and hanging them out in the dark to illuminate the world, just like the Buddhists illuminated the world by dispelling the darkness of ignorance, avidya. When you dispel the darkness of ignorance in the human beings, then you also prevent suffering, such as war, conflict, greed, hate. So it's important to stick to celebrating this festival of lights, this Vesak festival, on the full moon day of May, celebrating again the birth, the enlightenment, and the passing away of the last Buddha and also of all the other Buddhas that have been before him, and the next one, Arya Mateya, the noble, unconquerable friend that will come in this Aeon, in this Kalpa, in this universal cycle. Here on Sri Lanka, they are experts in making these Vesak lanterns, but they are made all over the world. I'll show you a lot of them here. So it usually is a tradition that goes from family to family, and they come in all shapes and forms. Some can be very small, at the size of a football, and some can be very large, as the size of a car or even a truck. And some of them are very, very impressive and takes weeks, sometimes months to build. They're always made out of sticks, usually split bamboo. So you split a bamboo cane, and then you get some very nice flexible sticks. They are bound together with small threads, and then they are covered up with rice paper that is glued together, and then painted usually with watercolors. And they, as I said here, they're experts in them. It's an art in itself. And it comes to the full extent, to the height of Japanese origami, in my impression. I'm very impressed with it when I came here and saw it for the first time, these Vesak lanterns. They're also made in Korea. They're also made in many other places of the world. So this also, of course, good karma to do that. Those who do that, they gain good karma, and they do that out of faith. One of the Vesak lanterns also here was made by soldiers from the gunnery in a very impressive one actually in Colombo. So everybody make them here and put them out at night. Along the waysides, you can see them also at night. And they're driving along, you see many Vesak lanterns. Very beautiful, very peaceful, and a very nice tradition, I think. But as you can see from the pictures here, they are fairly impressive of them. The largest of them usually illustrate some important period from the Buddha's life, his birth, his enlightenment, or some of the Jataka stories, his prior rebirths stories, of which we have preserved 547. And as he's reborn as a deer, or as a monkey king, or as a prince, or whatever. So they illustrate some of these life stories, previous life stories, Jatakas. Along the lake inside Sri Lanka, here on the Vesak night, there's a huge competition where people put up lanterns around the entire lake, and then compete about who ones has the best lantern, the most beautiful ones. And they are very impressive, very impressive. They are turning around usually, and they have taken months to build. And as I said, it's a family tradition. It goes from generation to generation. And there can be a 3rd, 4th, or 5th generation of Vesak lantern builders involved in this very nice and also, I think, holy tradition and activity. Enough of Vesak. Now we go to the questions. As again I say, I numbered the questions so people can see which question will be answered in which Dhamma on air, because otherwise we cannot find around it. I get a lot of questions now. I have more than 20 questions on stock, and I will answer them in the order they come in, because this I think is the most fair. So the question number 42 is, what is the true meaning of technical expressions called Viriyena, dukkhamacceti? Virya means energy, or I think better expression is enthusiasm, actually. And dukkhamacceti means to escape dukkha, escape suffering. So I would say the best translation I could come up with is suffering is escaped by enthusiastic effort only. So one cannot escape suffering with some kind of like half-hearted, non-dedicated effort, a little bit here and there, and putting a little bit there, here and there, and putting up a Buddha statue and burning a little bit incense here and there. It doesn't really count. It's a good start. It's in the faith, saddha department, in the devotion, bhakti department. But as long as it's not progressed further on to serious study of what the Buddha said, and to serious meditation on the pillow, doing hours, then it won't be able to reduce greed, hate, and ignorance, and thereby not reduce, prevent, eliminate the future karmic effects, which is pain, which is suffering, which is frustration, remorse, and regret of this in the mind present defilement of ignorance, greed, and hate, and such things as jealousy and restlessness and worries and so on. All the mental defilement, kilesas. So one has to do right effort. Right effort is a part of the Noble Eightfold Way, Samapadana. So I'd just like to define what is right effort, actually. The Noble Eightfold Way leading to Nibbana is simply this: right view, right motivation, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right awareness, and right concentration. But what is right effort? It's the effort to overcome already present disadvantageous, detrimental mental states. For example, like anger, or greed, or addiction, or worries, or regret, or doubt. It is already present in mind. So it's the effort to overcome what already is present in the mind. Number two of right effort, is a fourfold definition. There are four right efforts. Number two is effort to prevent future disadvantageous, detrimental mental states from arising. Here, both the insight and the meditation part works, but in particular, it's the meditation part. For example, anger, it can be prevented by metta meditation. If you do metta meditation, friendliness meditation now, then it will prevent future anger in arising. If one do disgust meditation, asubha meditation now, it will prevent future greed, addiction, attachment, clinging to arise. If one does insight meditation, vipassana meditation now, then it will prevent future ignorance in arising. So, whatever disadvantageous mental state there is in the mind, now it has to be cut out. That's right effort. Then, in order to not make any right effort arise in the future, one do furthermore some work to prevent it the right way. Goes without saying, that's effective. Then there's the good things that are in the mind, the good mental states, as kindness, harmlessness, generosity, concentration, dedication, determination, joy. The effort to begin to develop these absent, they are not in the mind now, advantageous mental states. This is right effort also. This is the third part of right effort. It is, if there's no joy now, no generosity now, no giving now, then this has to be developed. So it comes into the mind. And then there's an effort to maintain, perfect, already arising advantageous mental states. So this is a fourfold definition of right effort. In short, to avoid evil, to prevent evil, to start doing good, and become better in doing good. That's a fourfold definition of right effort. There's also an eightfold characterization of right effort. Striving for replacing wrong view with right view. That's right effort. Striving for replacing wrong motivation with right motivation. That's right effort. Striving for replacing wrong speech with right speech. That's right effort. Striving for replacing wrong action with right action. That's right effort. Striving for replacing wrong livelihood with right livelihood. That's right effort. Striving for replacing wrong effort with right effort. That's right effort, of course. Striving for replacing wrong awareness with right awareness. That is right effort. And striving for replacing wrong concentration with right concentration. Samma samadhi. That's right effort too. Thus knowing right and wrong effort as right and wrong effort. That's right view. You know what is right effort and what is wrong effort. That's right view. Awareness of presence of right and wrong effort. That's right awareness. If you're aware that you're doing right and also aware when you're doing wrong, then this is right awareness. Right effort has a function of striving, exertion, endurance, keep on keeping on, never giving up, always coming back. That's right effort. Viriyena means that you are going into this battle with the mental defilements, with suffering, with enthusiasm, not giving up. You're doing with joy. It's not like you're doing it in sadness, difficult. No. You fight like a fighter. Enjoy. Like in the ballpark. Because you entered the ballpark here with enthusiasm, virya, which is a mental ability and a spiritual power when it's really developed. Otherwise, one cannot overcome suffering. That's impossible. Suffering is a big thing. It's kept you in samsara for billions of universal cycles. And it keeps killing you. It keeps making you sick and sad. So you cannot overcome such a huge enemy by something that is just like little salon Buddhism. It has to be serious business. But do it with joy, Viriyena. Then one can overcome this dukkhamacceti. Overcome it and eliminate it. I will place a link down under these videos. And for those who are only listening to this audio, they should go to whatbuddhasaid.net and then search for what is right effort. Then they will get the full information. What is right effort? Samahita. And the videos are at YouTube, for those who also are listening. Just search for Bhikkhu Samahita at YouTube, or go to Vimeo and search for Dhamma video. Then you'll find my channel where these videos are given. A new thing is that the audio is coming at a very nice place on the internet called Insight Timer, which is a place where there's a lot of Dhamma talks, a lot of guided meditations, and they can be downloaded to your smartphone or to a tablet, and there's both a Apple version and a Android version, which can be got in Google Play Store. So this I can highly recommend. I also have some Dhamma talks there now, and I will publish all my Dhamma talks there in the future also. Insight Timer, which I can recommend. Question number 43. I've heard that the Pali is a universal language. How did the Buddha communicate with the Devas? I think actually he communicated with the Devas in Pali, not in Pali just means text. It's a linguistic term that came in later. The language the Buddha spoke was probably called Magadhan or Prakrit, one of several dialects in northern India at that time. And one of these Prakrits they spoke, and they spoke this because Devas are multilingual like I am, and like you also probably are. They can speak several languages. And because they are significantly more intelligent than humans are, they can speak many languages, including the language the Buddha spoke. Otherwise, they will have a chance also to communicate through the non-classical channel of communication that we discussed earlier on, which is an interference pattern of consciousnesses of the two beings that are communicating, and which we today call intuition, but is not really well examined yet by science or psychology or neurophysiology, how this works, because of lack of understanding of consciousness as a wave phenomena. And just on par with light and with radio waves and with all other undulations in fields, which has a frequency. So because of this lack of understanding, this non-local aspect of consciousness, this way of communication is not really well defined or well examined yet. But I hope it will be in the future. Question 44. is in Sri Lankan tradition, merit is passed by reciting. Maybe we don't have to do it that way. Yes, when you pass on the merit here, that's a very good tradition in general, I would say, but it should not be done in Pali. I agree with that, because nobody understands Pali, and nobody who are at these meetings, or very few at least, they understand what is recited. And is bordering insanity to recite something in a text in a language you don't understand, because it's not the sound itself, the recitation itself, that has effect. It's the intention that is felt behind when you say the words and understand the meaning. So only the meaning will give the right intention. That is to dedicate the merit to whoever in your personal family, 7 generations back, has become one of 8 kinds of hungry ghosts, Peters, because of stealing or because of bribing or defrauding, any kind of taking valuables that are not yours or getting them in a dishonest way. This leads you to the hungry ghost state, which is very unfortunate, because they cannot get anything to eat or any kind of satisfaction. And they have to suffer, and they can live there for eternities, that is billions of years, millions and billions of years. So it's to dedicate, to save them from their destiny, one can dedicate the merit. When one have given to the Sangha, one can dedicate the merit to these Peters. Then they can be freed from their suffering. And therefore we should do it. And this is done, but it should not be done in Pali. I think it can be done just by saying simply to yourself, whether verbal, loud or not, that you dedicate the merit to ghosts in your family, however long time back it is, but it works in 7 generations. And in a language that you actually understand, whatever language, the local language in your area. Then also a very nice, what we can say, we hereby dedicate the merit of this support to the Sangha of monks, of the Buddhist monks or nuns, to those in our family who have been so unfortunate to become hungry ghost Peters. And this can be said or thought while one is pouring water over one's hands from a can down into usually a bucket or small container. And this is done here in Sri Lanka, and I think this is a good tradition because it serves a good purpose, and it can prevent suffering for some beings who have cornered themselves up in a very unfortunate place in samsara, namely the state of the hungry ghost, the Peta state. So therefore it should be done. But I agree with the asker here that it's not fortunate to do it in Pali, in a language you don't understand. And then it becomes an empty ritual. And ritualism is not particularly good. So we should go back and follow what the Buddha said. He said we should use the local language. Wherever it is, if you speak English, then speak English. If you speak Sinhala, then speak Sinhala. If you speak Japanese, then say it in Japanese. Don't say it in some language that have not been spoken for 2,000 years. That's crazy. That's Buddhist culture, but it's not really saying. And neither is spirit singing, and neither is, I think, recitation of the Buddhist text in Pali, unless you understand Pali, but very few do. Question 45. I heard that some do Papanthariya Kamma, then that she cannot come out of hell until the end of an Aeon. But in one of your programs, you mentioned that Venerable Mahamukayana did that in this Aeon. He killed his mother and father, and he came out before the end of this Aeon. I did not just like to say that, unfortunately, Papanthariya Kamma is a Mahayana term. In Pali is Anantarika Kamma. And there are 5 of these. It's called the heinous crimes, or the unforgivable crimes. in the English translation. And just a general note of when Mahayana creeps in, then because Mahayana was, for historical reasons, first invented approximately 500 years after the Buddha's death. And then when something comes 500 years, then because of impermanence, then the accuracy of the Dhamma is slowly degrading. And then in 500 years is a significant amount of inaccuracies that's coming. Usually exaggerations if you read Sanskrit texts. So you can say about anything Mahayana and anything that is a source text of Sanskrit, forget about it. Put it away. Because the true original thing is real here. It's a Pali text, it's a Tipitaka. It's what the Buddha said. It's the Buddha Vachana. And we monks, Theravada monks, we do a great effort to keep it clean, completely clean. So the Tipitaka is not changed and has not been changed since it was put down 6 months after the death of the Buddha. It has not been changed at all, not a single word. Then there's a commentaries. This is another story. But the Pali text of Tipitaka is the golden standard. Keep up with that, because otherwise you cannot say you're a Buddhist. If you're sailing around with Mahayana superstition and insectness and foolish things that have crept in after 500 years or 1,000 years or 1,500 years, then it's a mix of all kinds of stuff. Some of it is true, but some of it is not true. And in this case, it is not true, because the Pali text says that if you do the 5 heinous crimes, the Untitled Kamma, that is, 1, intentionally murdering your father, 2, intentionally murdering your mother, 3, intentionally killing an arahat, an enlightened being, 4, shedding the blood of a Buddha, causing him to bleed, 5, creating a schism in the Sangha, the community of Buddhist monks and nuns. If you do one of these 5, then there's barbecue. Then you go to hell in the next rebirth. But it doesn't say how long time you stay there. It's true that the one we know, Devadatta, who tried to kill the Buddha 3 times, and also caused a schism in the Sangha. So he did the heinous crimes 4 times, at least. He will burn in hell to the end of this Aeon, this Kalpa. But he did 4 heinous crimes, not 1. But there's no determined how long time you stay. It only says that whatever you do, if you do one of these heinous crimes, then the next rebirth is determined to be hell. Avichiniraya. Whether you do good or bad afterwards doesn't count. You still go to hell, but doesn't say how long time you stay there. That depends upon other actions also, whether you've done good or bad also. And actually, Devadatta, even though he tried to kill the Buddha 3 times, and it causes schism in the Sangha, when he was swallowed up in hell, just before he died, he wanted to see the Buddha again, because he realized that the Buddha had never meant anything evil towards him, despite he had meant something evil towards the Buddha, deliberately tried to kill him. Then when he was swallowed up, he uttered a stanza in Pali that said the Buddha was his only refuge. So he had given up his own wrong views about that he should overtake the Sangha and be boss of the Sangha, which was his dream, because of ego gratification. He has given up that, and he realized that the Buddha was his only refuge. And that was the reason why the Buddha, he took him into the Sangha, because the Buddha saw that this would happen, that he would try to kill him. But he also saw that in the end, he will turn around. And just before dying, he actually turned around. And he was sick there. He was carried from his own monastery, 50 kilometers away, to the Jetavana monastery. And many people were afraid that he would come into the presence of the Buddha. But he came into Jetavana Monastery and to a small pond there, lotus pond there. And there he stepped down the ladder. He was born, carried on a ladder, on a litter, because he was sick by some of his fellow monks. And he stepped down to wash his feet. And right down when he stepped down to this pond to wash his feet, the earth opened and swallowed him up. There was 3 people who were swallowed up at that time, when the Buddha was alive. And that is if you really step over the line between good and bad, and if you're really evil several times, then such things can happen. So he will spend his time out there, but then in some incalculable number of eons, of kalpas, of universal cycles, he will be a Pacheka Buddha. He will be a solitary Buddha in the future. And the Buddha foresaw that. He predicted that. And that was why he took him into the Sangha and gave him ordination when he came and asked together with the others from his family. So he foresaw that, okay, a lot of evil will happen, but in the end will be good because he will become a solitary Buddha and he will take refuge in me just before he leaves this world to his entry to the barbecue, where he will suffer a lot, but well, so be it. He has to suffer a lot because he did a lot of evil. Cause and effect. Causality, nothing else than that. Then there is this question 46, which is a very good question actually. Is modern mindfulness the same as Buddhist mindfulness or awareness, Sati? And the answer is clearly a resounding no, it is not. Somebody have called it mindfulness or mindfulness light, and it's very, very popular, and there's a lot of teachers, and they take a lot of money for teaching you this mindfulness. And from Buddhist point of view, it is a little bit not so good. Why is that not so good? Because it lacks 2 crucial components. And that is 1, the ethical component of right morality, and 2, the 4 frames of reference. And as long as you don't have these 2 components inside your mindfulness, your Sati, your awareness, then it won't do you much good. It'll prevent something because of awareness of the present. And if you're trying to remember the past also, what you did in the past, it will also do something good. But if there's no understanding of what good and bad is, that is the ethical component, then it cannot prevent future downfall. And I see, unfortunately, a lot of people who have taken these mindfulness courses because they don't like religion and they are atheists and so on. And so they say, I take this mindfulness course and then I'll become a happy being here in the present. And since there is no afterlife, then I don't care shit about that. And this won't help them, unfortunately. Why no? Because even though you're mindful now here, if your greed is the same and your carelessness is the same and your lack of understanding of what is right and wrong, lack of understanding of morality and ethics, then you'll do mistakes, serious mistakes. Inflicting others with sexual diseases that are non-curable and lethal, that is slow motion murder, wrong filling out of tax papers or papers for insurance and so on, so committing fraud, while being mindful about it, doing it anyway because of temptation, because of fear, and because of foolishness, because of confusion. Then, of course, there will be, later down the road, in this life, there will be regret, remorse, bad consciousness, and therefore suffering. So this mindfulness doesn't follow up on is that you will become a more happy being, or more well-functioning being. Because if you still make the mistakes because of lack of morality and lack of proper understanding of what ethics is, then you'll do these mistakes anyway. So the ethical component is crucial. It has to be there. It's the lifeblood of the Sangha, the Sasana. But it's also the lifeblood of your future, of any being's future that is acting. Because it's the only thing that can prevent future downfall. And future downfall, I mean future fall in degrees of freedom and unhappiness, suffering, frustration, worries, fear. That comes from this bad consciousness, from this remorse, this regret, where the mind it knows it does something evil, huh? So it keeps circling around it. These thoughts of what one did there in the past, they keep coming back and keep nagging one, huh? For example, if one had committed adultery with somebody else's wife or been unfaithful to one's own sexual partner, it keeps coming back, keeps summing around. And whether you're mindful about it or not, it will make you unhappy right there on the spot. And whenever it comes back again. So this ethical component is crucial. It has to be there. I think mindfulness or mindfulness light or commercial mindfulness, which we can call also because of the usually fairly heavy pricing there is from these teachers, that I think has not done a good job of home study, really. Because otherwise they will not teach something that is specifically Buddhist, namely mindfulness, Sati, in such a superficial, half-hearted way. So taking money for something that is kind of like another man's information, namely the Buddha, I think is not really a clean business, to say it loud. So again, a careless and immoral but mindful life now cannot provide happiness in this life because of regrets, remorse, bad consciousness, repeated worries, which is well founded in the fear of the future karmic effects of having done wrong and evil. This is the ethical component that's lacking in mindfulness, this popular thing, commercial thing. Then this is number 2, with the 4 frames of reference. The Chachari Satipatthana. In short, I recite the Buddha. What is right awareness or right mindfulness? Samma Sati. The fourfold definition of right awareness. 1. Awareness of the body merely as a transient and compounded frame or form. Not as me, not as mine, not as what I am. 2. Awareness of feelings, Viriyena, just as conditioned emotional responses. Not as me, not as mine, not as what I am. Awareness of mind only as habituated and temporary moods. Not as mine, my moods, my mind. Not as me, not as what I am. And awareness of phenomena as only constructed mental states, not as an independent reality out there. That's right awareness. These 4 frames of reference has to be there, while being alert and clearly comprehending. Then this will put away longing towards and aversion against anything in this world. The Blessed Buddha, he once said, friends, this is the only direct way, ekkayana makko, to the mental purification of beings, to the overcoming and elimination of all sorrow, frustration, pain, misery, and suffering. This is the only way to gaining the right method to the realization of Nibbana, that is, the establishing of these 4 foundations of awareness, the 4 frames of reference. Again, awareness of the body only as a frame, the feelings only as an emotional response, the mind only as mood, and phenomena only as mental states. This can decouple any awareness, any attraction, any desire, any addiction, any hate, any anger, any frustration rooted in longing towards this phenomena in this world and aversion against phenomena in this world. If it's done being alert and while clearly comprehending. This is right awareness. And this is a whole other ball game than mindfulness. Where these 4 frames of reference never is mentioned. Not by a single word. So there you see there's a significant difference than teaching awareness of the present. A little bit more than that. And then Buddhist right awareness, Sati, which really is a crucial thing. It has to come first in order to approach Nibbana along the Noble Eightfold Way, along a series of happy rebirths. Present-day popular non-Buddhist mindfulness light, it cannot ensure that because of almost complete lack of right morality and ethics, ensuring karmic prevention of suffering. It's like you take up an umbrella if you have this right morality and ethical understanding. So suffering doesn't rain down on you, neither now in this life nor in any future rebirth. And the 4 frames of reference that ensures an increasing insight and thereby release from the world and thereby release from suffering. So that's a whole other thing. It has, I hope it will seep into mindfulness also, little by little. And I hope these teachers that teach it, that they start to take their own teaching a little bit more serious and take their own medicine and then sit down and study and find out what is right awareness according to early Buddhism. Because then they will find out that there's a lot more to it than they maybe originally anticipated. I think this is 42 minutes and 12 seconds, actually. I think this is enough for today. Please email any new Dhamma questions to Bhante, BHANTE, Samahita, SAMAHITA, @gmail.com. And all the Dhamma on airs can be found on my website, again, whatbuddhasaid.net, and just search there for Dhamma on air. And again, it's a good thing for you personally, for all in your family and relatives and associates and friends, and for the world in general, to recommend these videos and to share them with whoever you deem worth listening to. So don't share them indiscriminately. Find out who is worth listening to according to your definition, and then share the Dhamma with them actively. Unless they say that they are not interested and they are bored by it or they're disgusted by it, then don't share it with them. But if they are interested, and even only in a minor degree, then please share the Dhamma. Click subscribe down here. Click subscribe also to the Vimeo channel and to the Insight channel. I also made a group there in the Insight Timer Society, where there's a lot of meditators, more than 100,000 actually, to gain these teachings only in sound form and use them as a source of insight and also as a guided meditation. Then I would say happy Vesak to all beings out there. And as usual, thank you for your keen and enthusiastic attention. May all beings, without any exception, become happy thereby. Namo Tassu Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Worthy, honorable, and perfectly self-enlightened was the blessed Buddha. Thank you.